because I've got to introduce the person who is known by absolutely all of us anyway, which is Julia Silver, which is Qualified Tutor, which she's come up as. Now, Julia, you just missed, we just had a spare couple of minutes, and we were talking about what's been the impact of the festival. And Zainab and Maya both said that they had hesitations about, you know, should they join, what were they going to expect, and how it has just been such a wonderful, enlightening experience, and how there's so much positive energy. And you know that this time last year, that was me, seeing a post and opening up something from Qualified Tutor, but not knowing what to expect and not knowing if it was a space that was going to be welcoming and be there for me. And it absolutely has been, not just for me, but for every single one of us who is here, and also every single one of us who is not here as well. And if any of you were in AJ Harper's session this morning, she was talking about people who change the world. And Julia absolutely is one of those people who is changing the world. So, you know, we need to give her a massive, massive round of applause, and then and make her cry.
Yeah.
And then she's going to go and do her presentation.
Yeah, no,
tutoring is not plan B.
Is it not?
No, and you know, you're telling the world that, and that's just amazing. So yeah, so over to you. I didn't read out your little blurb bit. I'm sorry. Do you want me to?
I can do that bit. Thank you. Thank you. Oh no, don't like that view. Hold on. Okay. Hi Maya. Hi MJ. How you doing? Hi Georgina. Hi Jack. Hi Jeremy.
Hi.
Hi. Hi Zainab.
Hi.
Hi. Samantha, Elizabeth, Juliana, we want to see your faces. Tolulope, Vaso, Fatima, Elisa, Carl, Adam, and the wonderful Lucy. This session will be better if you'll turn your cameras on, please. And I understand that there are school runs involved, and dogs and washing up and work. Thank you, Juliana. I really appreciate that. Samantha, if you can turn your screen on, I would really, really appreciate it, because I want to see you and talk with you. So I'm going to get started, and as anybody else turns their camera on, I will welcome you. Thank you, Lucy. Good lass. Yeah, I understand, Jeremy. I have the same problem. My children will be picked up late today. That's because I'm here with you. And the reason why I'm here with you is because I'm a little bit obsessed. And the reason why I'm a little bit obsessed is because I set out to solve a problem, and the problem turned out to be much more interesting than I'd realized. I don't think I'm going to start with a little bit about me, but I think I will start with a little bit about what I'm hoping to do with this session. And that really seriously is learn from you. I'm working on some ideas at the moment for my book. And I'm just going to lift up my webcam here to show you. This is what I've got lined up for you today. Okay. And they are intentionally loosely presented on postcards, because this could go in lots of different directions. And the reason for that is that, I don't know, I set out to solve a wicked problem. The wicked problem is, why does tutoring lack leadership? And I'm exploring that issue as the ground is changing in front of us. So I was a school leader 2 years ago, and I wanted to continue growing professionally, and I did not want to run a school because schools are big and heavy. Hands up if you agree. So yeah, so I did not want to run a school. Jack, you have a stunning phrase for that you didn't want to contribute to a system that you don't believe in. Sorry to put words in your mouth, but that knocked my socks off, because I think for me it was very much about throwing my good energy at a brick wall. And I was looking for more fertile soil, and the soil that I landed on was tutors, because my own personal journey in tutoring is, every time I try to tutor, I find that it's difficult. And I find that it's difficult for a series of reasons that I've spent the last 2 years unpicking. So I am not setting up this conversation to tell you that I know how to tutor. I am setting up this conversation to say, I may have some ideas about why tutoring's hard, and I may have some ideas about the solution. And to skip to the end, it's going to be about working together. In fact, it's going to be about this slide here. Tutors need tutors. And the reason why I say tutors need tutors is because we need to work in an infrastructure where there are people next to us and people ahead of us and people sharing and inspiring and supporting us. We also need to have people to learn to teach and to give to. We need to be part of an ecosystem, because that's what we opted into as educators. None of us wanted to be working in isolation, and that's one of the key areas, but I think I've skipped to the middle. So the book that I'm writing, Tutoring is Not Plan B, is for tutors who want to love tutoring, but are struggling because they think that tutoring is Plan B, and they don't realize that it can be their Plan A. So that's what I'm going to work on with you today. And I do want your screens on. Matt, thank you, welcome. Please keep your screen on. Beth, I'm so happy to see you here. Please keep your screens on. Please unmute yourself and consider this first question. What are your learning rules? What are your learning rules? So you're all tutors, teachers, you know how to run a session. Matt, you know how to run a music session. I want to know, when people show up in your sessions, what are the norms and the expectations that you establish really quickly? What are your learning rules? Please unmute yourselves and let me know. You can also use the chat.
It's okay to make mistakes, and a lot.
Awesome. Go ahead, Zainab, you said something else as well. I just got excited.
It's okay to make mistakes, and a lot of them. That's what.
It's okay to make a lot of mistakes.
Yeah.
A lot of mistakes means a lot of effort and a lot of learning.
Yeah.
Awesome. Thank you, Zainab. Jack, you said, I can read the chat at the same time. I can. We go at your pace. And Lucy said, learning is cool. Anybody else want to unmute yourselves? We want to hear your voice. Khaled, I'd love to hear what your learning rules are.
Sorry, I came in late. I didn't hear the question.
That's okay. Sorry to throw you in the deep end. I'll give you a minute to acclimatize and I'll come back to you. MJ,
Okay.
What are your learning rules?
I don't do any assessments. To start with, I talk about them, find out what their interests are, and I say that the tuition is their time. They've got 100% of my attention, and if they can't work out, can't learn something, I'll either leave it or I'll come back to it and do it in a different way. And in this current climate, of the last 6 months, I've said it's not your fault. And I've stressed that quite heavily. If you don't know, it's not your fault.
Awesome.
And if we have to go back to the beginning, we will. I'll catch you up.
This is a person-centered and a reassuring approach. Thank you. Lucy says we don't have to fit into year group expectations. Sarah says, press the button. Love that. Pure mischief. Juliana says, enjoy the journey, not just pursuing the goal. Delish. Matt says, connect with people. Khaled, go ahead.
Yeah, I always tell them to focus on understanding, and the grades will come, as a byproduct of the understanding, because especially the British system, the national curriculum is so test oriented, it leads to so much memorization and mark scheme based learning. And so I try to stay away from it a little bit.
Agreed. Also, Khaled, your daughter's very welcome here. Don't hesitate. Beth, what did you say? Give everything a try. Delish. Okay, so those are your learning rules. These are my learning rules. And if you know me, you won't be surprised. Be curious, be generous, and be reflective. This is how we start all qualified tutor training. And that is because that's our culture here. And the reason why I've set up our culture here is because I want to do this exploring with you together. So I'm inviting you to be curious, put down your preconceptions, and let's explore some questions together. Be generous means don't hold back. We actually want to hear from you. If you have an idea or a question, please throw it in the chat or unmute yourself and tell it to us. It will be better with you in it. And I promise if I use your idea in the book, I will reference you. And be reflective means let the learning change you. Let the learning change you, not memorization, like Khaled said. Let the professional development develop you. That's where the magic happens. So thank you so much, Jack, for tracking those ideas in the chat. So I would like to propose that we find a way to love tutoring. These postcards and this use of postcards is a nod to the amazing Michael Bungay-Stanier, who ran a coaching session for us in the last Love Tutoring Festival. And he really liked them because they bring texture to a session. So the next question I want to ask you is this: what are the barriers for loving tutoring? What are your barriers for loving tutoring? And again, please unmute yourselves because I want to hear, what are your barriers for loving tutoring?
I would say isolation.
Ah, thank you, Lucy. Do you want to expand? She just put something in her mouth. That was
I'm just eating cake. I'm so sorry. That's so awful. Yes, because isolation and loneliness, someone else has just said it as well, like Beth, whether you're starting out or whether you've built a really big company, there's a level of isolation in the sense that you've chosen to do something that a lot of people who are still like brainwashed into the whole like kind of teaching in a classroom kind of thing, you always come up against people who don't get it. And until you learn to stop caring and just to like run in your own little lane, that other people's perspective can have a lot of, can bring in self-doubt and all of this kind of stuff. And for me, I just think that even if you have built quite a successful business, then you have employees and tutors that work for you. And so you have a friendship, but you can never really be, you're still their boss in the end of the day. And you know how I feel about being someone's boss. I don't think about that at all, but there is still a level of like accountability as the person who runs the company. And that can be quite lonely as well, because people think that, lots of people can try and like, take your time and everything as well, so yeah.
Thank you for sharing that, Lucy. That was really honest. And I think we all agree that tutoring can be lonely. I really do. Can I just have a nod from you if you felt the same thing? Yeah. So there you go, Dal. You're not alone. Tutoring can be lonely. There are some myths and misconceptions that Matt and Sarah are talking about in the chat there. Can we hear about that, Matt?
Yeah, it's kind of funny because I'm in a $10,000 mastermind group on live streaming. I just say that to give credibility, but major people like from Tony Robbins to Jack Canfield to you name it, these people set up their virtual events and they're all in from this point. They're going to do 3 events now virtually from this point forward, and the numbers are still hot even post pandemic. But like some of my clients, like New York Public Library or Queens Public Library, who I used to do the most in-person performances for them. They're like, the higher ups only want in person. They're like, that's the only way. We can't do anything virtual or hybrid. And it's just kind of like what we're doing. Like, I'm in Baltimore, Maryland right now, and you guys are in the UK. I mean, this is the way of the future. It's not even just the way of the future, it's the way of the now. My last point I'm going to say is that I also talk to these same people and they're like, yeah, there's a recession. So I just want to give you a heads up. We're going to be slashing our budgets for in-person programs. And I'm like, called it. So virtual, you could do the same. You could deliver similar experiences for a fraction of the cost. And like companies like Yelp are going to get rid of their offices. And, that's just I don't know. let me pass it on to someone else. Who also, Sarah also wants to talk about.
Sarah, did you want to say more about the misconceptions of online?
I do, yeah. You know some of my groups. I've worked with kids in Poland. One of my classes was Poland, Thailand, Italy, Sunderland, and I don't know, a couple of other places, Tanzania. And it's this group of kids who loved maths. But yeah, what a combo. You know, they loved maths, and they wouldn't have met each other, and they wouldn't have known that it was okay to love maths unless they all came together in a group. And that's only possible online. You can't do that in the little village where I'm from. You know, you'd be hard pressed to find somebody else who loves maths.
Glorious.
Yes,
Absolutely
Jack,
glorious.
it's okay to love maths.
We actually have the equivalent story about a QT tutor who she was on an NTP program, and she was working with a group of children who had never met each other, although they were in the same school. And once she'd been running a group with them, they started playing football together after school.
Oh.
Yeah, so she broke a barrier that you would never have assumed was there, and built community where there wasn't one. And I think that all of these examples of how online can, I mean, look, here we are here, right? I certainly am really committed to the idea of online being really democratic. Everybody has a front seat at these meetings. And I think that that's a really, really powerful shift in the way that we contribute and enroll in things. So what other myths and misconceptions are there about tutoring that we deal with that makes us wonder whether we can make a go of tutoring? What other myths and misconceptions are there? It's for exams. Memorize the answers. You can't make enough money as a tutor. Well, you have to go to Georgina's session to learn how to do that. It's less efficient, interesting. Money grabbing and elitist. It's just a hobby. Strange working hours. It's all worksheet based. Anybody want to unmute and tell us about some of the experiences they've had navigating through these myths and misconceptions? The ones about accessibility, the ones about equity.
I don't mind.
Thank you.
So yeah, I think with my contribution was like the money grabbing and elitist, and I think that's, you know, not everyone tutors in that way, but then when you do both, I found that really difficult because you know, there's lots of people who jump on things really quickly to say, oh, you only service the rich and things like that. And you're like, if you actually understand that what I do is with the money and the profit that I make on those sessions, I support and I put time into supporting the most disadvantaged with pro bono work and things like that. You know, so people are very quick to make that or to put their own impression of what they believe tutoring is onto your situation. And I think there's so many times when we just have to like, just let things go actually, because it's just not worth the effort and the energy to like fight things like that.
Thank you, Lucy. Ruth, Juliana, we'd love to hear from you. Maya, don't hesitate. Jeremy?
Yeah, I think I agree with what the lady just said. I think sometimes people just assume that we tutor people who've got loads of money and just want something to keep the kids busy, don't they?
And is that not true?
Some cases probably, but I mean, I've been doing quite a lot of work with kids who are home educated, actually.
Right.
And like she was just saying, something, you know, you charge a certain amount for certain things, and then where, you know, parents really can't afford it, where they really, really need your assistance, you change things around a bit.
Yeah, I heard that about childcare. I've got one next week. It's her birthday, and I said I'm not sure whether she'll be up for it because she'll be wired, and I know she'll be wired, and I know she won't want to learn. And her mum just said, "But I've still got to work till 5, so if you could still come, that'd be great."
Wow.
So
what have you planned? Measuring out a birthday cake?
It'll be birthday stuff. I've got to see her this afternoon, but I was going to say that it's that a lot of the myths have been blown out of the water in the last 3 years. I think teachers and tutors are more respected, and I think tutoring now is more mainstream. So a lot of the it's for the rich, it's for the ones who are really struggling. the myths have all, I think they've all been watered down really. I think we've kind of proved that there's a need and we're good, and we're, you know, people are happy with us.
Tell
Really.
us more. What's caused that shift?
The pandemic, the need for extra hours. I think people appreciate being helped, and I think they don't mind putting money into something that they believe in. That's what I'm feeling.
Stunning.
Yeah.
Jack, can I ask you to contribute a little bit about the work that you're doing? I'm sorry to put you on the spot, because it's a totally different type of tutoring.
You want me to talk about Nudge?
Just, yeah, a little bit about the kind of students that you're working with.
So I work for Nudge Education, who were the sponsors yesterday. Diego, their CEO, came and did a talk for us about 4 o'clock yesterday, I think it was. You'll be able to catch on the recordings. Yeah, so I work with we work with students who are chronically disengaged from education. So that means that they have fallen through the cracks, basically. Most of our students, by the time we reach them, have been, or most of my students who I've been working with have been out of education for over a year, out of formal education for over a year by the time we get to them. And that could be because of their mental health, because of their complex needs, their support needs that an education establishment can't meet. They say they can't meet, they could meet, I believe. But yeah, so I get to sit with kids and just be the person who listens to them and does nice things with them that, you know, eventually they oh, hello Ruth, you work for Nudge too.
Yeah,
cool.
I started with them just at the mid-May. That's what I started off doing. So I've got some commissions in schools, and I'm just picking up one, like you said, a really disengaged student who's been out of school for a year with autism and lots of complex needs. Yeah, I've been working with them for about mid-May.
Yeah, and it's really interesting actually, Lucy. I'm just scanning Lucy Saunders, not Lucy Alexandra, but yes, Diego is fire. What I do when I work with students is not really think about their academic stuff at all, because they're absolutely not in a position to think about passing an exam. So a student who I'm working with at the moment, actually, if you don't mind me telling a story.
I love it.
No. When I first met her, she wasn't leaving the house. She was 17 when I met her. She wasn't leaving the house. She hadn't been out of the house sort of for like a year or so. I see her every week, just once a week for about an hour, if that's what she can manage. And she's now doing work experience at a nursery, which, you know, we spent ages just doing art together for like the first 6 months, just doing art. And she didn't even speak. Her mum would speak for her as her communication partner because she couldn't get the words out when I was there. Now we have conversations about what she does in nursery. She's really keen to do an apprenticeship, and she's an incredible French writer. She won't speak French, but her French is incredible. We've just found out that she's really good at French. And so now, after like a year and a half of working with her, I sat down tentatively with her about a month ago and we did a GCSE paper together. And she only dropped like 4 marks on the whole thing, which is just outrageous because her French is better than mine. But so like when we didn't ever intend for her to do French, and we didn't ever intend for her to be doing anything academic really. My goal was to help her be able to be in the world. And what I'm trying to say, I think, is that as tutors, because we don't have to follow the school curriculum, we can turn our attention to these things, and these things are starting to be seen as valuable things to pay for. You know, having someone who's going to come in and tend to your young person's well-being is really helpful, especially if you have to work till 5 and it's their birthday. You know, they need someone who they like, who's going to show up for them on their birthday and do something nice with them. That's amazing. So yeah,
now you know why I handed the mic over to Jack. But let me ask you this. Anybody agree with this statement? Tutoring's not easy. Beth, you do so much work preparing tutoring material for tutors. Could you tell us a bit about the difference between sort of how you prepare resources for tutors, please? Because it's not the same.
No, I think with tutoring, part of what can be hard is that there is so much freedom and so much flexibility, and actually you can do anything. If you're working on comprehension, it doesn't have to be sitting down with a book. You could use a board game, or you could use anything around you, really. And I think sometimes that freedom is the thing that makes it hard, because I'm great at overthinking and really, having all these ideas and not always knowing how to put those into practice. So knowing if you have a set structure of what you're going to do, it's kind of comfortable, isn't it? If you know how you're going to approach something. But if you are tutoring a student and something doesn't work, you can change in that moment and start a new activity, try something different, get up and go outside if you've got the space to, and really take that learning anywhere. And I think that can feel really daunting, and that can feel really hard, because it's a skill you might not have used as much, or been able to have that freedom.
Stunning. Stunning. That flexibility is daunting. Thank you so much, Beth. That's exactly what I've experienced myself. And I do think it's important to have a jumping off point from which to be responsive. When I was writing chapter 5, I asked the tutoring community, what is the magic ingredient in tutoring? And everybody said, be flexible, be responsive. But first you have to know what to be responsive from, as well as be responsive to, which is of course your student and their needs in the moment. You have to have a baseline, and it can be overwhelming. Has anybody come across the phrase shadow schooling before? Lucy has. Georgina, can you tell us about shadow schooling, please?
Yeah, it's an annoying phrase that I've heard very much through the lockdown, about how essentially I was trying to replace what should have been happening in school, which was nonsense, because I'd already been doing it for 10 years whilst all of my students were still at school. I'm not angry. Yeah. Like, are we trying to replicate what would have been happening in the classroom? No, it's a completely different experience.
And it's much more effective.
Exactly.
And it complements what happens in the classroom. And shadow schooling is not okay, because shadows are not safe for schools. We don't want schools that exist in the shadows. We want to bring tutoring out into the light. And I believe, like Jeremy said, that we are on that journey at the moment. And so to share the conversation here with people who are so passionate about it is change making. So I want to ask you about Plan A tutoring. What could Plan A tutoring mean? Or in fact, let's pose it as a question like this. What does Plan A tutoring mean to you? What does it look like to you? Not to anyone else. Could be a franchise, could be one student a week, could be volunteering, could be employing other tutors, could be creating resources that other people are using. What does your Plan A tutoring look like? The Learning Centre.
To me, it's having lots of different pieces of a jigsaw almost.
Oh,
so I like, doing things like gentleman was saying before, working with students one-to-one, being in schools, offering help for parents, doing online lessons. So it's, to me, it's a jigsaw of lots of different things.
Which is really stimulating, especially if you've been in a school and you've been teaching year 4 for the last 15 years. Thank you. So that combination of different activities, different challenges. I never know where I'm going to be tomorrow. Lucy, that's actually physical for you as well, isn't it? You could be in Dubai one day and on a yacht the next. What other question? What other ideas of Plan A tutoring? Miguel, can we hear about you? What does Plan A tutoring look like for you?
Yeah, so I'm going to be on a mission to empower tutors, and I need to understand how I can navigate the legal part of it, because tutors are freelanced. But I really want to empower tutors, and I'm starting with my wife first. So she's resigned from her job to be a tutor full-time. So she's my guinea pig. So really what I want to do is to launch anyone that wants to be a tutor that can work with me being an agent, or in the future work totally on their own. I think there's so much market out there, and there's so much opportunity, and there's so much uniqueness that I think there's space for everyone. And with online tuition, you can work anywhere. You know, it's just, I network a whole deal, and I'm just like blown away how big the world is at the moment. I think, Lucy, you're a networker as well. And I think that's where the potential comes from, is to understand how big it is, that the small mind, and we were talking about franchising this morning, and I was like biting my tongue, because the small mind is really not good. And I think if we are to look after ourselves through Ubuntu, now those that know me, I speak about Ubuntu, and Ubuntu means I am because of you and you are because of me. And I think as a community, we need to do more of that and stop hiding cards and being insecure, and just let it rip, let people grow, because everyone's unique. Everyone's got a different perspective. And I think if we can really build and grow that, we are raising tuition to a bar that's probably never been, I believe.
Glorious.
So my tutors are more important than my clients. Is my perspective.
What about this, Miguel?
So I think it's part of that. I still, you know, after 2 years of being in this game, and I think that my wanting to do this is to kind of repair that relationship that tutors have with agencies. Because I don't think it's all explained. It's what Lucy was saying, you know, out of the fees that we get as an agency, I can't depend just on one tutor, you know. It's the business is not viable, you know. So and I think that relationship is very important, that tutors understand, you know, what is the business mechanics behind all this, and why do agencies charge whatever they charge, you know. It's because they believe that to get the clients that they put in front of a tutor, it costs that amount of money. But I think, and that's kind of a drive why I want tutors to go out there and find your own business and see how much it costs, the effort that it takes, you know, how lonely it is. Because I was telling Lucy on the chat, lonely is because of the decisions you have to make, the tough decisions you have to make. That's what makes this position lonely. Because if it's easy to make easy decisions, and everyone's a leader, everyone's a boss, you know, it's that tough decision that you have to make. You know, when you go to bed, your last thought was that tough decision that you made. You know, people must experience that, because you need to go through the good and the bad to understand, what is this about? It's not just about money. It's not just about tutoring. It's not just about this passion. There's so much more complexity. And for you to be yes at what you do, I think you need to have an understanding of all that. And that's my mission, is to get anyone that works with me as a tutor to understand that, and not look at me as an agency, but look at me as an ally that can catapult them, that can develop them, that is not afraid of them taking market. In fact, I'll be happy that they take market. In fact, the quicker they take market, the better it is for me.
That's the real fresh planning. Thank you so much for sharing that with us. So there are freelancers here, there are agency tutors here, there are small business leaders here and medium-sized business leaders here. And some of us are working within a big system, and some of us are stepping out into on fresh snow. What does Plan A tutoring look like for you is not one answer, it is a personal answer. Do you have an idea of what Plan A looks like to you? If you do and you haven't yet, please add it into the chat now. What does Plan A tutoring look like to you? Plan A means your ideal version of tutoring, the tutoring that you would like to be doing. Zainab, Georgina, Jeremy, Maya, Steph, Judith, Lucy, we want to hear from you. We want to know what your Plan A looks like.
It makes us as important as schools, I think, and as important as home life. I think it just puts us all on Plan A instead of school, home, then us.
Yeah.
You know,
yeah.
I think that's
because
what it does.
Takes a village.
Yeah.
It takes a village to raise a child, and there's no shame in that.
Yeah.
And I actually think that, you know, Jack's adjustment to your point about the birthday is really interesting, that sometimes you can't be home at 5 and you do need another trusted adult to be there. There's something very powerful about that role of a trusted adult, of being the person, isn't there? So lots of pieces of the jigsaw, I think, is really, really interesting. I think we touched on this as well, colleagues, not competitors. Does anyone want to speak a little bit about colleagues, not competitors?
Yeah, I had, just as an example, I had a request from a lady who had a little girl in year 2, and she was asking me, because I'm an English teacher, she was asking me if I'd be able to help. She popped round, we had like a half an hour sort of a consult, we had a chat. I realised I wouldn't be able to help, but through things like this, I had a couple of other tutors in the area that I knew of, so I was able to pass it on. Yeah. So it's about networking like that. And I think it's also, it's hard when you first starting off, because you feel like you want to take everything because you think I'm not going to make any money.
Yeah.
But actually it's really unfair to take things on that you're not going to be able to do successfully. So that sort of passing and sharing, I think, is really effective as well.
Agreed, and it only makes you more trustworthy. Hands up if you've ever passed a student onto a colleague. Lovely, thank you. Sarah, you had your hand up anyway. Did you want to contribute something else?
I did, and it's about that. It's really about the business hub. So, and I'm not taking any credit for this because it's been Miguel alongside me and Georgina and Kaylee and Helen and Davina and many more tutors. But it's about recognizing that there's space for all of us and we're not competitors, and with that idea we can be there to support each other and to help each other grow. I mean, you know, I've just learned so much and grown so much in my confidence over this last year working with the QT Business Hub. And I know that other people have as well. And I see things like, you know, Helen's got her logo, and I know that came out of one of our sessions. And you know, people passing clients between each other. And you know, oh my goodness, I cannot begin to say what I've learned from Miguel. But it's all just you know, people buy from people and people support each other. And if we know each other, then we've got that valid place to sort of say, oh, you know what, I can't deal with this student, but I know who can. And that's not only just a good point for that student and for that student's family, but it's actually good professionally as well, to say that, you know, no, I probably can't help you, but I'm in a network of people and I will be able to place the right person for you. Georgina, my friend, came to me with that ridiculous maths. She's doing an engineering degree and she said, oh yeah, you can tutor me and help. I was like, no. Georgina probably could, though. You know, pass her that way. So it's all that sort of like working together and recognizing that there's space for all of us, and we don't have to be nasty to each other, we don't have to be horrible, we don't have to be competitors, we don't have to keep our cards close to our chest. We don't, because the more we give and the more we share, the more we develop as a community.
And the more we develop as a community, the more able we are to help our students.
Yeah.
And, you know, as much as we are all needing to put dinner on the table and roofs on heads, we all stepped into this space because we want to help students. And having the greatest impact is all about collegiality. That's how it happens. So that was really honest. Thank you so much, Sarah. I'm going to share this one with you. You are more amazing than you know. Tutors are amazing because, who wants to finish my sentence?
Do you know what? I'm going to step in again.
Sorry, go on, Sarah.
Oh, sorry. I had very difficult teenage years, and I was quite lost. And I connected with not a tutor. He was the head of the local youth club, and he took me up on Dartmoor. Not just me, but loads of us up on Dartmoor went walking. He was the first person to take me surfing. He was the first person to get me out in a kayak. And he was really the light, the shining light of my teenage years. And it's just wonderful because we've connected on Facebook again. And I've been chatting with him, and he's coming around for tea. And you know, that you can be, or we can be, that shining light for children who don't have that.
Awesome. Thank you, Sarah. Go on, Beth.
I was going to say that I don't think there necessarily needs to be a because. It's just that tutors are amazing, and I think sometimes you feel like you need to find that reason why, but there's not one reason. There are so many reasons. And
give me a few of them. Go on.
Well, being supportive, being caring, and I think it's all those things you love about tutoring yourself are the reasons why you're amazing to your students, and that you genuinely love what you're doing makes such a difference to the children or adults or whoever you're working with, because you're so passionate.
And I think that goes back to that idea of not taking on the wrong students, which we were talking about yesterday in the wellbeing session. When you take on the students that you know you can help, and then you have the joy of actually helping them, you get that sort of virtuous cycle of making a difference and knowing that you can make a difference. Lucy Saunders, where are you? I can't see your screen on. There you are. No, not all tutors are created equal. Absolutely not. And that's why we come here to develop and connect and raise the tide together. But opting in to developing as tutors together professionally is the best thing we can do to bring ourselves closer to amazing. So in the same way that students need developing, tutors need developing, and we're not shy of that in the slightest. We're human beings here, but we know that the concept of tutoring makes a difference, can reach the parts other experiences can't meet. I've got 5 kids at home, and when my kids need help, I reach out to the tutors I know, because they don't want me to be their tutor because I'm their mum, because the teacher hasn't managed to get through to them yet. And that's not instead of the teacher, because there's readiness for learning that has to, and socialization that does happen in the classroom. But as part of the village, tutoring is amazing. As a job, well, let's do this one actually then. No, I won't. Let's do this one. Tutoring is flexible and fulfilling. It's like Ruth said, that you get that variety of different activities. Has anybody else got any thoughts about tutoring being flexible and fulfilling? Yeah, go ahead, Khaled.
Yeah, I think that flexibility really allows you to, kind of tailor the approach to a certain student, one student, which is, not to blame teachers in the slightest. It's just they don't have that freedom, from sometimes a rigid curriculum or something they need to stick to. When you're teaching 20 people, you can't really personalize to each one, unfortunately, no matter how much more time, you give to somebody, but that personal touch is just amazing that you're able to give that to somebody.
Agreed. Who's this?
Can't tell.
Somebody else, unmute. Who's this?
It's like Winnie the Pooh.
It's Christopher Robin. Winnie the Pooh. Here comes Winnie the Pooh coming down the stairs. Bump, bump, bump. He's sure there's another way to come downstairs, but he can't think of it at the moment because his head hurts. The system is broken and the teachers are there holding up the classroom at the moment. And it's for us to reimagine things. So,
but do you know, when you were just talking about flexible, and this is completely off, this is completely off actually being a tutor and doing the teaching. Last Friday, it was really nice weather and I went to the pub and sat outside. It sounds really sick, but we can do that. And it's really nice. And you can build your day around your life as well. The biggest thing I've noticed is I feel like I've got one.
Yes, that is not off topic. That is exactly what I meant. Hands up if you make judgment with your time where you get to look after yourself as well as working. Yes. And why the blazes not? Go on, Matt.
I have a couple things, but one thing is I used to do in-person shows driving everywhere, and I missed like the entire first year of my son's life. And now that I do virtual, I get to drop him off at school. If I forgot his lunch, I could just go home, do my tutoring, and then like go back and take his luncheon. Like, there are things I can do now. Like, I can be with my family more, like that, in a way that I couldn't. And like, that is way more fulfilling than like being like stuck in a building all day or like whatever, you know? And the other, you know, another thing I just want to bring out is like, our world is changing in such a fast way. And like in my graduate degree in elementary education, they were on like, is memorization like necessary? Like, we have the internet, everything's kind of searchable right now. And like, we're dealing with all these really big, profound questions that even like the higher ups don't necessarily have answers to. And I just want to put that out. It's such a fascinating time in that way.
I agree with you. Grassroots movements. Matt's used this phrase, the higher ups, again and again. And I think that I've certainly learned this in school leadership, that when I had an idea or came across a resource and told everybody they needed to use it, and nobody used it. But if you can get a grassroots movement where people believe something, see it for themselves, and start moving forward together, then you make real change. And then you really live in an environment that's moving. So I think that Matt's point about higher ups is really, really interesting. That's not where change happens. Change happens in this room. So I want to ask you, I have 2 more questions for you, and then I'm going to do the school run. One of them is this: what do you need to create your Plan A tutoring? So we have Miguel's Plan A tutoring in mind, and we have who else contributed their Plan A tutoring? Ruth, I have a really strong picture of you in the pub and visiting lots of different settings at the same time. What do you need to get from where you are today to your version of Plan A? And Zainab, I know that you're on a journey at the moment. Georgina, I know lots of fascinating parts of your journey. So what is, oh, gorgeous. So Beth feels that she needs community and support in order to get to her Plan A vision for tutoring, for how to contribute to tutors. Lucy feels that she needs collaboration, which is that moment where we're greater than the sum of our parts. Juliana, thank you so much. Financial security, social networking. We haven't spoken much about the business of tutoring, and today is focused on the business of tutoring. It's really awesome that we've got Erin here, because Tutorbird is a fabulous piece of software. Is a fabulous piece of software for organizing tutors' business life. And I know this because I've done the demo. I don't know this because I've got an account. I do know this because I've been on the receiving end. So one of the tutors who works with, Georgina, who works with 2 of my kids, won the Tutorbird free subscription in the last raffle, and she's been working with Tutorbird and working with my kids, and I've been seeing the way that that Tutorbird is smoothing out the finances. So why did I bring that up there? Because Juliana, you said about financial security, and managing money is not something that we learn to do when we train to teach, and it's certainly not something that we learn in the first 15 years of life in school. And Lucy and I have talked at length about the fact that we don't teach our children finances in the slightest. So part of Plan A tutoring has got to be learning to manage your finances. What do you need to create Plan A tutoring? Networking within a tutor community. We spoke about tutors need tutors, didn't we? And I've been quite gutsy this week, and I've started to say that tutoring is no longer lonely, because we've now had more than 2,000 participants to the 3 Love Tutoring festivals that we've hosted. And I think the landscape's changed. I really do. And I'm really proud of what we've achieved together. So final question, so that my children don't starve tonight. What could it mean to be a qualified tutor? So you know that the Love Tutoring Festival is hosted by Qualified Tutor, and you know that I created Qualified Tutor because there is no sense of regulation in tutoring, and a bottom-up approach to regulation starts with training. So that's where Qualified Tutor came from as a concept. But I'd like to know from you, because I think it's a nuanced and interesting idea, and I think we're on shifting sands. What could it mean to be a qualified tutor? So Lucy's kicked us off with a tutor who is accountable to a team who uphold the highest standards. And that phrase, the highest standards, is intentionally open-ended, isn't it? The confidence that you know how to support your students, know how to work out what they need and who to ask when you don't. Being a truly confident tutor in important areas, awesome. Maya, I would suggest that being truly confident is also remaining curious, right, and reflective, because you've got to be continually improving if you want to stay truly confident. Having a support network, we agree with you, Zainab, we absolutely agree with you. And understanding that the journey doesn't have an end point. So we've spoken a lot about lifelong learning, Lucy and I, and we feel that that open-ended journey is the joy. It is the joy, and that's what we want to inspire our students with. If we started off right at the beginning with our learning rules, we know that we spoke about enjoying the journey of learning. So I'm just going to fill you in on what Qualified Tutor offers, so that you understand where I'm coming from in this journey and how you can be a part of it. We have courses so that we're helping tutors to support their students. We have community so that we're helping tutors to help tutors. And we have credentials, and that's because we want to help tutors to get clients. And we think that that three-pronged approach is what's going to raise the tide in tutoring together, because we believe that all boats rise with the tide. And that, my friends, is how we roll around here. So I'm going to wrap up. I've really, really enjoyed spending this time with you and hearing you. Thank you to those who contributed. Anybody who wants to drop me an email about your insights or your thoughts along the way, please do so. Georgina, please will you share the answer garden, because I really want to see what the takeaways are from this. And my parting message to you is please join us. Please be a part of this journey together. Sarah and Georgina and Jack and Miguel and Lucy and Beth and I have been walking this path alongside each other for the last year. And Matt and I started even earlier than that. And we hope that you're part of the next year of this journey. So thank you so much to all of you. You have shared what I needed to learn, and I will continue writing this book for you. Thank you. Thanks, Matt. Thanks, Khaled. Thanks, Miguel. Thanks, Jack. Thanks, Sarah. Thanks, Maya. Thanks, Mary Jane. Thanks, Georgina. Thanks, Zainab. Thanks, Lucy. Thanks, Beth. Thanks, Ruth. Thanks. I can't thank Citadel Business School, the whole thing. To Kanitra, Lucy, Judith, Tracy, Erin, thank you. Thank you, Juliana. Thank you, John. And thank you to those of you who I haven't been able to recognize because your screens aren't on, but you are important also.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Julia. What a lovely exploration of what we have become and are becoming.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Are becoming.
Really, really lovely. Thank you so much. We have next on the, actually, no, we need to share the answer garden because we have got new things coming in. I'm not sure if it's gone onto the chat because I've got that hidden by the Google with the Chromebook with the answer garden on. So what have we got? Add value, I just saw. Companionship. Delight, which I don't know if you saw that earlier, Julia. What a lovely thing to be on the Love Tutoring Festival. Trust, being clear, having a network, transparency, knowing your worth. They're all really important parts of us becoming a tutor ourselves. Right, I believe that we have Erin in the room already. Let me stop sharing. Erin,
yes, I'm here.
There you are.
Hi.
So the next thing that we have today is a demo by Tutorbird, who are our sponsors of today. And like Julia's just said, it is a fantastic bit of software. So let's dive straight in, Erin, and find out about it. Is there
amazing? Well, just like Sarah introduced me, my name is Erin. I'm the Strategic Communication Specialist at TutorBird. We're a business management platform that helps you manage your student list, your schedule, taking attendance, uploading online resources, and of course, all of the finances that go into operating a tutoring business, collecting money, automating the money, sending out invoices, and all of that. So I am here today. I also have with me Diana, who is one of our, there she is. We have Diana, who is one of our incredible customer success specialists and onboarding specialists. So she is here, you know, day in, day out. She's picking up the phone, she's answering the email, she's running small group demos, one-to-one onboarding sessions. She is fabulous. We're really lucky to have her here today. So what we're going to do, I have a quick presentation to run through just kind of what TutorBird is and what it can do and how it can help you. And then I'm going to flip it over to Diana, who has one of our demo accounts to be able to actually show you all of these features in action. So if I can just share screen and get the right one here. All right. Let me see the presentation up here, all good?
Yes.
Okay, perfect. All right, so yes, we are so excited to be here and to be sponsoring today and Friday for the Love Tutoring Festival 3. We were a sponsor for the Friday of Love Tutoring Festival 2 back in January, so we're really happy to be back and to be able to sponsor not just one, but 2 days, both focused on the business of tutoring. Thanks for joining us. Okay, so first of all, what is TutorBird? It's business management made easy. So we help private tutors and tutoring business owners automate and streamline your admin work, which leaves you more time to do what you love, and that's actually work with your students and tutor. It is a web-based application, which means you can use it on any device at any time, as long as you're connected to the internet. So whether that's mobile or whether you've got a tablet or an iPad with you or on any desktop, you'll always have your most up-to-date information. So we do have a number of different features, but the core 4 that I just wanted to go through today are student management, lesson scheduling, attendance and notes, and the invoicing and billing side of things. We operate on what we call calendar-based billing. So when it comes to the student management, we're telling TutorBird, how much do you want this student to pay? Then you go over to the calendar and you're telling TutorBird, when are they coming to the lessons? When you take attendance, you tell the system, did they attend their lesson? And that will let the system know whether it's a lesson that you want to charge for or a lesson that you don't want to charge for, offer a makeup credit, a number of different options. Behind the scenes, TutorBird is using all of this information to automatically calculate how much they owe for lessons. So you don't have to sit down at the end of the month or the beginning of the month, go through your calendar, count up how many lessons they came for, count up how much they owe you, and then put all of that together. That is already going to be there for you. So student management, the first of that core 4 is you can manually add students or you can import them from a spreadsheet. You can keep your parent or guardian info all there in one place. This is where you would set the default lesson length and price, and I'll go into that a little bit more on the next slide. And you can also send bulk emails, SMS messages as well. So for that default lesson price that I mentioned, every student can have a unique student-tutor billing relationship. If there's more than one tutor at your business, they can have a different default set up with each tutor they're assigned to. There's 3 different main options for billing. So a per lesson charge would be every lesson that's scheduled on the calendar has a charge. Flat monthly would be 1 charge for the month as long as there's 1 lesson scheduled. So there could be 1 lesson in the month, there could be 5 lessons in the month. It will always charge whatever flat rate you set up. And then there's an hourly rate. So it'll automatically adjust to the length of the lesson depending on how you've set that up. The next of our core features is the calendar. So when you're scheduling your lessons, you can schedule private lessons and group lessons in just a few clicks. We've got the option to create custom categories and locations, which are such a great way to keep things organized. You can even color code the calendar by category, by location. So at a quick glance, you can tell immediately, you know, these are makeup lessons because I set them to blue. You can send automated lesson reminders either by email or SMS. And we do have some online lesson integration. So we do have an integration with Zoom, Skype, or FaceTime, where you would input either the Zoom URL or the Skype or FaceTime username and be able to open your online lesson directly from the calendar. That could also be sent to students in their reminder, so they'd be able to have that one-click access to get right in. The next of our core 4 is the attendance and notes. So this is where you'd be taking attendance for every lesson, which, like I mentioned earlier, feeds directly into the billing. You can issue makeup credits if that's something that your business offers. It is a feature that we have available. You can write detailed lesson notes for yourself, for students, and for parents. And you can even link to files in online resources. So that's a space within TutorBird that you can access, students and parents can access if they sign in through the student portal, and any files, any handouts, any presentations, anything that you wanted to share with them can go right in there. And then finally, with that core 4, the big one is the invoicing and billing. So we know we've heard from so many tutors that this can be such a headache, whether it's, whether you charge monthly or in a set term for a number of weeks, or even like weekly ongoing billing. It can take up so much of your time. So we've really tried to focus on streamlining and automating this part of running the business. So you can create individual invoices or bulk invoices really easily. Diana will show you that when we flip over to the demo. You can customize the invoices to match your branding. So we do have the option to change the accent color, upload your own logo if you have one. On top of the calendar-based billing for lessons, you can add any additional charges if you charge for materials or textbooks, or there's like an exam fee, anything else that you need to charge to a specific student or family. And you can also record payments, add discounts, and submit refunds directly through the app. So kind of your one-stop shop to manage all of that accounting, invoicing, and billing. Once you do all of that, you can really take it to the next level by automating it. So some of our kind of fan favorite features are auto invoicing and auto pay. So the entire process of invoicing and billing, you would just need to set up once, and then you watch as your payments come in on time every time. We do have an integration with Stripe and PayPal to collect online payments. So if you use the auto invoicing, you'd be able to enable different settings for each family if you needed to, or set it all up at once. You can choose how often the invoices should be created, whether you want to invoice for upcoming lessons or lessons that have already happened. We've really built out TutorBird with a lot of flexibility in the features. We don't want you to have to conform your business to the way that the features work. Rather, it's the other way around. There's so much flexibility in it that it can really work no matter how your business is set up. But that is not all it can do. Those are the core 4, but we do have a number of other features. So there's a lending library where you'd be able to keep track of any physical items that you physically lend out to your students or families, and be able to set a due date, keep an eye on when they're due, and make sure that they're returned. I briefly touched on the online resources with the attendance. This is where you can upload any files that you need. You can assign them to specific students. You can let them know that they're there, and they'd be able to access all of these through their own student portal. Expenses and other revenue. So any other business expenses that you wanted to track, TutorBird already has your teaching revenue because it would automatically be recorded in here based on the billing that you have. So if you also record your business expenses and any other revenue that you need to track for your business, when it comes to tax season, you can simply create a revenue and expense report, and everything is all good to go. Mileage, if you do any like travel tutoring, or there's other mileage expenses that you need to keep track of, going to an in-person conference or something, for example, there is a mileage feature specifically built out so you can track that. News and blog posts where you can share information with your families and with any other tutors in your business. The business report section where we have a number of different options, the revenue and expense report I mentioned, there's student retention, student attendance, all sorts of different business reporting that you might need to keep track of your data. And then finally, we do have a website builder where it's a fairly simple builder, similar to, if you can build out a Word document, you can use this web builder. And you can create a nice simple website to have a place for new students or existing families to go. If you already have an existing website somewhere else, or you wanted to build one somewhere else, you can still add our TutorBird widgets. So on your existing website, whether you build it with WordPress or Squarespace or Wix, or wherever you have it, you can add a student portal login widget or a new student registration widget where any new prospective students could sign up and all of their information would automatically be dumped into your TutorBird account. And finally, I know that's a lot of information already, but it's not just for tutors. We do have a student portal, like I've mentioned a couple of times. This is completely optional. It's up to you. You can pick certain students or parents that you wanted to give access to. You could make it something accessible to everyone. You are in control of that. You would manually send the invitation so they would be able to set up their portal. And within that portal, it really eliminates some of that back and forth communication about rescheduling or what did we talk about in that lesson? Or again, those online resources, where do I find this file? It's a nice one-stop shop for families to be able to see what they need to see. You can create open lesson slots where they can register themselves in the calendar. You would be in control of the deadlines and policies for cancellations and registrations. They'd be able to access those files. There's a study log if they wanted to record, some notes of things they were working on throughout the week. And in the parent login, or if it's an adult student logging in, they could also have access to their invoices and make payments directly through the portal. We are very excited because we have been hard at work for the past few years, upgrading just about everything with TutorBird. So it's all the same features you know and love if you're already an existing TutorBird user. But a few years ago, we were looking ahead at some of the features we wanted to build and having a look through some of the feedback we received from our community and from our members. And we felt that the best course of action was we wanted to rebuild the features on newer technology. TutorBird is about 7, almost 8 years old. And so we spent the past few years working really, really hard to rebuild all of the features and the functionality on upgraded technology. There's a lot of behind the scenes plumbing on our end of what we can notice the improvements there, but on the user end, you'll notice much faster load times. The way it fetches the data makes it feel like super snappy. We've updated the design to make it a lot more modern and intuitive, and we've really, really focused on improving the mobile experience. That's some feedback that we've gotten a lot, is that so many tutors are making changes to their calendar on the go. They're getting, an email from a parent while they're in the grocery store and they're stopping to have a look at the calendar, uploading a file, sending out a quick email. So we've really, really intentionally focused on the mobile experience. It works and feels so much like a native app. And so we're excited. It's now in beta. We've got a small group of users that are testing it out and sharing their feedback. And we're really excited to be able to launch this to everyone else hopefully later this year. So with all of that said, I am going to pass it over to Diana, and she will show you in our demo account this new version that we've been working on. So I think let me stop sharing. And Diana, take it away.
Gotcha. Hey guys, thanks for joining us today and being a part of our conference here and our little introduction to the TutorBird platform. I'm going to share my screen. Give me 2 seconds. There we go. Everyone should be able to see it. This is our beautiful new homepage for TutorBird. If you're currently a TutorBird member, then this is going to look a lot different. If you're not with us yet, then I'm so glad this is the one I get to show off. I'm just going to quickly go through kind of the homepage here and then go to our core features. So right off the bat, you can see there's a little bit of a snapshot here of the information that's in your TutorBird account for your month. If you don't want to see this information, you are more than welcome to hide that summary and just take a look at your agenda for the day based on whoever's logging in. If you're a single tutor, then this is all for you. If you are a multi-tutor, then it's going to be for you who is logging in. If you're an administrator, it's for everyone. You can choose if there are separate ones if you'd like to see them. You can also take attendance from this main page if you'd like, but we usually recommend doing that from the calendar. First things first, when you open up your TutorBird account, if you're a multi-tutor situation, then you're going to start getting your staff and your tutors set into the account and getting that all set up. So I'll just quickly go over that for anyone who is a part of a multi-tutor institution. This is your list here of all of your tutors and staff. And once you've got them added in, you will see that list. You can choose lots of different information to see at one time, and kind of just at a glance get an information or an idea of who's working for you. You can add a new tutor or a new staff member just by clicking this button here. I'll go in to just take a look at what that looks like as you add them. Just some basic information here. You'll notice that you've got a little option here to set a Zoom URL. So this is a personal meeting ID. Each of your tutors, if you're multi-tutor, can have their own Zoom URL for their personal meeting ID, which can correlate to any of their lessons on the calendar, which creates a seamless ability for your students to click on that if they're utilizing the student portal to get to their meeting. If you're a single tutor, you're going to have this option as well. Put in your meeting ID and the calendar will pull that information. Once you've got your tutors and your staff set up, you're going to see this nice list. I'll give you a little idea of what it looks like once they're in. So this is a profile for a staff member. We can see that their basic information is here. Anytime you want to edit any information, you'll see these little edit buttons, and that's how you know what information you're going to be changing. This is all basic information for the tutor. And again, this is where you can put that Zoom URL if you want to. Once you've got that saved, you can see as well their default settings. So this is for your tutors. All of your tutors can have their own default way of billing their students. This can, of course, be adjusted on a per student basis with the relationship with that student, but this is just the default as they are assigned students. You can see here their list of students that are assigned. You can track payroll within TutorBird, you can set availability, and the biggest one here is you can change the permissions for your tutors. So if you have multiple tutors, you have the option to decide exactly what they see and what they can do. Of course, if you're a single tutor, you have all the power, you are the administrator, you get access to everything just right off the bat. Once you've got your tutors and your staff into TutorBird, the next thing is to get your students in. So we've got 3 different ways of getting your students into TutorBird. The first one is just a really easy click and add. You can add that student, manually input that information. If you're brand new, just starting off, that might be the way you start to add people. However, if you're already a business that you've got a list of students, you can import your students with this option. And when you navigate to that area, it's going to give you the option to input or copy and paste any of your spreadsheet, your student list, and it will help you map out exactly where that information is going to go as you add your students. And then it will add all of your students into this lovely list. The third way to get students into TutorBird, and probably the most seamless and automated, especially if you want to automate your entire business, would be through the registration widget that Erin mentioned. We're not going to go into the website too much today since it's very basic and we want to show off the spa. That is the new version of this. But you can get that registration widget on your external website or with a TutorBird hosted website, and that is the other way you can have your students registered into your TutorBird account. Once your students are in your TutorBird account, that is when you're going to see them on this list. Again, you always have the option to, at a glance, choose how much information you're going to see on the list. Once they're in there, you can just click on their name and that's going to pull you into their profile. So very similar to your tutors and your staff in the way that it looks, but different options. Again, this is where you're going to choose the status for your student and any personal information. You can add any student notes or attachments to their profile. This is going to give you a little overview where you can set up their reminders. You can set up who is in charge of them. And this is probably the biggest part of the student profile. This is where you set up the student's billing relationship. If you are a single tutor, when you set up when you add your students, you will have the option to set up the billing relationship in that window. If you're a multi-tutor studio, then it's going to show up in the actual student profile when you're assigning your tutors. So that's going to give you the option to say specifically which tutor and which relationship is happening with this student. Again, they can have multiple relationships with multiple tutors. So as you can see, Malia is assigned to Amanda Kinnan, and this is the relationship that they have. As Erin mentioned, we have a few different options. You have the student pays based on the number of lessons, so that's a per lesson. You have a flat monthly rate, and then you have the hourly rate. So you can get that all set up and saved, and that is how the calendar, or those are the settings that the calendar is going to use to start calculating what is owed to you. Again, you've got some more information here, your study log, your attendance and notes for the student, any message history, and also how to access their student portal. That's all going to be within the student profile. Once you've got all of your students in and you've got all of their information, you've set up their billing relationship, you've assigned them to their tutor, or if you're a single tutor, you've just set up their billing relationship, that's when you start to get your calendar set up. So I'm going to view this on a monthly view just to start. Erin has made this all nice and pretty so we can see the color coding of the calendar. We're on a month view right now, and I believe we're viewing this on a color coding by category. So all of these are categorized through our categories feature, which I will show you. Just as a base information here, you've got a few different views of taking a look at the calendar. We've got monthly, weekly, day, and timeline. Those were all existing within the version 1 of TutorBird, but in our version 2, we have a brand new view called the agenda. A lot of our members were asking for this, so we were able to implement this with the base foundational release that we're doing right now. So as you can see, this is the agenda. Based on the day of the week, we can see a timeline version of what's going on that day for the studio. If you want to see just for one of your tutors, if you're a multi-tutor, you can use this search function, which is also the filter function, to view exactly the information that you want. So if you only want to view Colleen Michael's agenda for the day, then you can filter by Colleen and all of that information will show up for her. Go back to month here. You also have the option to sync your calendar. So you can sync this TutorBird calendar to any of your third-party calendars here. I will just let you know that it is a one-way sync, and that is just for safety reasons, to make sure that all of your information is edited in one place and remains the same here on your TutorBird calendar. So any changes you make on your TutorBird calendar will sync to your device and to your third-party calendar. However, any changes if you were to make them on your third-party device would not sync back to TutorBird. So keep in mind that any changes do need to be made within TutorBird, and that will reflect on your third-party calendar application. Once you've got all of these on here, you can categorize them and get them color coded. We're going to show you how to do that. So that's just through this option here, categories and locations. And this is where you get your category set up. So we can see here that this tutor does group workshops, they do intro sessions, they do one-on-one lessons, et cetera, et cetera. This is where you get your reminders set up for your categories, any blocked dates. So vacation dates are really important. You can set that as a block date, get all of your vacation on your calendar. And then as you're starting to schedule your students for your semester, your year, those reoccurring events will not be scheduled on any days that have a blocked event. So that's really good for vacation. And this is also where you can set up makeup credits and whether your categories can be used for them. You would add a category here, put your name of your category, set up your settings, and then save. And you can use these categories to color code your calendar. It's also really good for your reporting at the end of the year to see income that's projected based on categories that you're using and what different services that you provide. This is also where you get location set up. And remember before, I told you about the Zoom little meeting URL you can put into your profile. This is where it kind of connects with the calendar. So you would get your Zoom meeting set up as a location. And when you use that location on a calendar event, it's going to populate that URL that you put in the profile section of the tutor. So we'll pop back to the calendar just to take a look at that. There's lots of little items here that you can see, little icons. So these little recycling ones are indicating that it's a makeup lesson. You've got the little X that's indicating attendance was taken, and a specific type of attendance was taken. This little video icon is indicating that this is a Zoom lesson or a FaceTime or a video lesson. So if it was a Zoom lesson and they were using Zoom, this would become clickable as long as you have that link in the tutor's profile, and your students can access this through their student portal and can seamlessly be joined into that Zoom, FaceTime, Skype meeting, etc. And there we go. So that's how it's going to look when it's on here. Now, to get the lessons on the calendar, you've got a couple different options. You can choose this, or you can select any white space on the date that you want to start scheduling. When you click to add an event, you've got a few options. The first and the second are basically the same thing, but one is a quick add and the other just gives you a lot more flexibility and options to set up that event. The third is a non-tutoring event. That is just for anything that is not going to have any student attendees. For a quick add lesson, as you can see, it's very quick. It's just bringing up all of the basic information. And this option is going to assume all of that default billing relationship settings that you set up previously when you were assigning tutors or adding your students. So a quick add lesson, to keep in mind, it's going to use and assume all of your default settings. You can choose a few different things. So the time that it starts, if it's repeating, whether you want it private or public, whether it requires a makeup credit, etc. And you can choose the location like I showed you before, pick Zoom meeting, and that is going to schedule it. If I hit save there, we can see, that's going to pop up on the 27th today. There we go. So we've got all of our lessons there, and I just booked that one here. The other option you've got is to add the new event, and this is going to take you to a page that gives you a lot more flexibility of what you can add. If you are going to have a substitute for a lesson, you can use substitute teaching. If you want students to be able to register for this open lesson within their student portal, you can ensure that it's public and you can allow students to register, either one student up to 50 students, however many students, more than 50 if you wanted, you can allow registration for that. You can choose one student or multiple students if this is a group lesson. You can also get your students set up into different groups, and then you can choose that group, which will put that information in. We'll put the student's name. So I chose groups, I clicked primary, which is one of the groups that we have, and all of these students was in that primary group, and they just quickly are added as attendees. This is where you choose your category and your location. Again, you can choose your date, your time. If the duration is different, remember that when you do a quick add, it's assuming all the defaults. So it's pulling whatever default lesson length you have for that student is. But when you add a new event, you can choose the duration. You can choose whether this event repeats on a daily, weekly, monthly, or yearly schedule, and you can choose when it ends if you know. Otherwise, you can just let the calendar indefinitely calculate what is owed to you. This is the other most important part of adding a new event. So you always set up a default relationship with your students. That's always going to be based on what you take with that student a majority of the time. If anything deviates from that, or say a student takes 2 subjects from one tutor, you're going to set up the default for the one that they take the majority of the time, and then you'll use the calendar to initiate a different price for any other type of lesson. So for this lesson, this student is maybe taking piano with the same tutor. We're going to, instead of using the student default, we're going to specify a different price. So this option here gives you the ability to kind of deviate from all of those defaults that you set up for the initial calculation of what's going on, and it gives you that flexibility of setting up different events for different things that charge different prices. You also have the option here of setting up public descriptions or private descriptions for these events. Public, obviously, are going to be shown to everyone who can see that event. Private description is just for yourself as the administrator or the assigned tutor. And then that's really how you get your schedule set up. So that is probably one of the biggest, bulkiest core features, of TutorBird. It's the most dense aside from the invoicing. So what we like to say and kind of drill into everyone's mind is that TutorBird is calendar-based billing. Everything you put on the calendar is going to speak to the accounting side of the software. So as long as you're keeping an accurate schedule, everything else should be accurate. And if you're automating it, then it's seamless and you don't need to think about it. And that's the beauty of TutorBird. It makes everything automated so that you don't need to think about it and you can focus on what you love, which is tutoring. So once you've got everything on the calendar, then you're just going to go about your day and do your lessons, love your teaching, etc. And at the end of the day, you're going to take your attendance, or maybe you're going to do it after your lesson. Whenever you want, you've got the flexibility and the choice to do that. So we're going to pop into today and we're going to show you how you take attendance. And that is kind of the little key feature of what correlates the calendar to the accounting side of the software. So if we go over here to the 27th, we're going to take attendance for one of their lessons today. We're going to go into Riley. So how you take attendance is just simply by clicking on the event. You're going to see that you have that option right here at the bottom. When we click attendance, this is going to take us into this web view. What I will say is it always defaults to unrecorded. That does not mean that is not billing or calculating towards how much is owed to you. It is always going to be calculating that as long as there's something on the calendar and you've asked it to calculate. Unrecorded just means that no one has taken attendance or touched this event. Present, obviously, is going to be billable. You have the option to indicate whether they were late, just for your own recording. You can choose whether they were absent. You have the option to not bill them if notice was given, or if your policy is simply to not bill. You have an option to bill an absence, or you have the option to bill that absence and give a makeup credit. So we implemented this for our tutors who were telling us that they had rescheduling and makeup credit needs that needed to be met. And so this gives you the ability to have that security in your financials. So I heard a lot of people, we were in a bit early, talking about, the financial security of having tutoring business that doesn't have as many peaks and valleys. So a lot of flat monthly rates come out of that. TutorBird is meant to give you the ability to know that your finances are staying, similar or the same. And that's where the makeup credits come in. You can bill for the lesson that didn't happen. So you're still getting that financials that you were dependent upon, but then you give the onus onto your student to say, here's your makeup credit. You let me know, or I will let you know when I have availability outside of regular scheduled lessons to give you some makeup time. You also have the ability to limit that to expire makeup credits, et cetera, within the system. So if you have a rescheduling policy and a makeup credit policy, we can definitely help you out with that. And the first step of that is through attendance. You also have that same option if you yourself is sick, absent, vacation, anything like that, you can bill and give a makeup credit to the student for that, or just not bill them. This is also where you start to do your notes. So this is your little handy dandy note section. Right here is where you choose whose notes you're doing. So student notes, parent notes, or private notes. Student notes are visible in their portal to parents and student themselves. Parent notes are only visible to themselves, and then private notes again are only visible to you, the tutor, or an administrator. You can add your notes in here. This is also where you can link online resources. So Erin talked a little bit about that. Online resources is a really great functionality that the students can have access to in their student portal, but you can also link resources here through attendance. Resources or anything you can think of, a PDF, a video file, an audio file, any type of file that assists your students in learning what they're learning, you can upload. You have unlimited storage space, so you can upload as many things as you want. Just keep in mind that each file must be 2 gigabytes or less, which is fairly large. And so I don't think that most people have hit that limit at all, and they're able to have a great storage space of resources for their students. You also have the ability here to email your lesson notes as you do them. So you can send that to the student, to the parent, to the tutor, or to yourself. Tutor, obviously, if you were an admin, myself, I'm acting as an admin right now. And that is the notes section. You also have the option to view student history through here. So if any notes had been taken, they would be here and there would be a button for you to copy that to your clipboard and easily paste them in if you need to do that for your lessons. So as you take attendance, we'll just hit save there for Riley. We can see here on the 27th, we took attendance for Riley, and now right next to that, we see a little check mark, which means that she was present. And if you hover there, you can see as well that it's present and it is billing. And that is essentially the calendar and taking attendance. So I'll just repeat one more time. It's all calendar-based billing. As long as your schedule is accurate on the calendar, it so shall be in the accounting side of the software. As you take attendance, it's going to pop you into families and invoices. So that's the next section, our big invoicing section of the software. I just clicked here on families and invoices, and this is your big list, same like your student list or your teacher's list. You have the option here to view many different columns all at once. I always say to show all of them. It's so much good information, especially on this page, to keep you nice and updated. These options up here are typically bulk options. So when you're looking at a student list, any of these are options you can do in bulk. You can see all your family accounts, all your invoices, all your recent transactions, and you can see all of that information as of specific dates. So everything is on the calendar, always billing to the family account. You get to choose how much of that information you see by using these calendar dates and how much of that information you collect on by setting up your invoicing settings. So I'm going to pop into Terrence here and take a look at their account. Oops, we're in invoices, in account. So here we go. We're in Terrence's account. We can see all of these transactions. I'm going to pop it down to 100 just so we can see all of that information. Never mind, there weren't that many. And we're seeing all of that information as of June 28th. Let's pop it to the end of the month just to see most updated information. Now, most people are going to change this depending on how you do your invoicing. So if you're a prepaid invoicing, typically you want to look at the calendar or the account up to the last date of your invoice, July 31st. If you're postpaid, that might be different. So I popped it up there to July 31st so we can take a look at everything that's on here. These are all coming from the calendar, and you can see that with the little lesson button here. And we can see what they're charging, $30 a lesson. And this is a payment. So this is a manual payment. This is basically a check and balance. So as these charges come from the calendar, you may take payment from them, check, cash, bank transfer, lots of different ways of doing that. You also have the option of integrating with our online payment processors, which is Stripe and PayPal Pro. If you integrate with them and you take payments online, this system is going to automate for you. It's going to update. They're going to tell us what happened, and you won't need to do pretty much anything. If you aren't integrating with one of our payment processors, you absolutely can still keep track of your finances. There's just a little bit of admin work to add a manual transaction. So that's where I did. I hit add transaction, and we can see here that we can add a payment, a charge, a refund, or a discount. Charge you normally won't use because you're going to be using the calendar to do your charging, but this is really good for materials. So if you sell them books or anything like that, you can add manual charges. Payments are really good. Like I said, if you don't take on online payments, you can choose the date that you received that payment, the amount, the payment type, a description for that payment, you can send an email receipt as well. So just to show you, I'm going to put in $200. Let's say I got that by an e-transfer, and I'm going to say postpaid payment. And we're going to hit save. And then we can see that that popped up here as a postpaid payment for $200, which covered these charges that were on the account. Once you've got the account looking accurate, so you've taken attendance, you've come to take a look at their account, make sure that that all seems right. That's when you're going to start doing invoicing. So this option, you have to create manual invoices, and you can do that at any point in time. You can specify the day and the information that it is pulling. So invoices are a snapshot of the account. It's pulling in that information from the account based on the dates that you're choosing. So if you're doing a manual invoice and you choose new invoice, this is going to give you those options. So what do I want to include? I want to include all my previous balance and payments to keep everything nice and accurate. That's, if they didn't pay something before the start date of my invoice, then, the start date of my invoice, then that's going to be pulled forward as a balance forward. So let's do a invoice for July, and we're going to do for the full month of July. You can quick select some information here as well. And I'm not worried about a due date necessarily, so I'm not going to indicate, but you definitely can. Choosing a due date, you know what, we're here, let's do it. If we do a due date, then what you can also set up is a late payment fee and an overdue invoice reminder. So if you set up an overdue invoice reminder and they have not paid that by your due date, they'll get the reminder. And then if they still haven't paid it by another date, they can get a late payment fee added to their account. So again, that financial security, lots of ways to help make sure that you're receiving the financial part of your business for the service that you're giving. So due date is July. We're going to hit next. This is just a couple more options about the invoice. How do you want it to look? Do you want a footer note? Do I want to email it? We're going to hit create. You can see here that that's going to be creating in the back end, the background. Every 5 seconds that will refresh. Now we can see that it's nice and done. Here we'll give you a snapshot of the amount. If we click on this, it's going to pull up our beautiful invoice. And you can see here we've added the logo. So our logo for this school has been updated. You can definitely do that as well. You can change the color of this and make it a little bit more branded to your school. You can see as well that there is a balance forward on here. So there was no invoice for this family in June. And so there was no payment made in June. There was, however, some charges there, of course, that didn't get paid in June. So because we included any balances or payments previous to the start date, that's going to pull forward any money that's owed to you and make sure that it's keeping you up to date on the payments on the invoices. It's also showing you, obviously, July's lessons for a total of $480. If you integrate with a payment processor, Stripe or PayPal Pro, a nice little button will show up here that says click here to pay online, and your students and parents will be able to click that button and pay their invoice with their credit card. The other option you've got is auto invoicing. And so that's the part of the automation that you get set up for your invoicing so that you don't have to pay attention to it. Like Erin said, you can have invoicing settings on like a school basis. So everyone's on the same ones, or you can have individual ones for every single family if they're on a different schedule than someone else. You can set up that individually within this same section. We'll enable auto invoicing, and this is going to give you a bunch of options. So typically what we would say is get up your auto invoicing set up for your next billing period. So if you're postpaid, that's going to be coming up in the next day or so. So you would get that set up right now. If you're prepaid, you can get that set up right now as well. And that will go for the next month. So always do it right before your next billing start date. It's going to default to prepaid, so we'll say that that's prepaid. We're going to do it every month, but you can also do it weekly or yearly. And you want that to start on the billing cycle date. And again, let's say we want the due date. If my billing date is the 1st, I'm going to want it, on the Wednesday after. So that's just telling you it's always going to be 5 days after your invoice date that your due date is. We're going to select next. Again, same options. How do you want this to be viewed? Do you want the balance to come forward? Do you want to automatically email these invoices? Lots of people like to have this option checked. That means that they don't have to worry about it. System's going to create it. System's going to send it. And if you're integrated and you have auto pay set up, the system is going to charge their saved credit card information as well. We're going to hit save there. Once you've got that set up and you take a look back at your families and invoices page, remember I've got my columns all up here. Now we can see Terrence's auto invoice settings. So we can see exactly when the next invoice is coming, what the due date's going to be, the billing period, if it's going to be emailed, and we're taking a look at the balance date as of July 31st. So we know that that invoice is going to be $480. And that is essentially how you get the auto invoicing and the invoicing set up. You can choose how you want to invoice, and if you want that to be automated, or you can do it manually if you'd prefer. The way to get those settings kind of set up in terms of how your invoices look and your auto pay, all of that kind of thing, that's all set up in your business settings. So I'm just going to take a few minutes to kind of pop through those, and then I'm going to answer any questions that you guys have. So in your business settings section, this is where you set up your accounts and invoices settings in terms of how they look and how you get those out. So you can set up your formatting here, nice and pretty. You can set up invoice dates and lots of other options about your invoices. You've got your online payments option. So this is where you integrate with Stripe or PayPal Pro. You have email and SMS. These are all of your system email templates. Anytime the system sends an automatic email, such as a lesson reminder, cancellation, payment, anything like that, it's going to use one of these templates, and you have full control over what that looks like. You also have that option with SMS, with the automated SMS messages as well. You've got your policies, and this is where you would get set up for if you're using the student portal and you have students canceling and registering for events in the portal. This is where you can get your cancellation set up and kind of how the system acts as you are allowing them to do that. Last note, if you guys are interested in signing up with TutorBird, you can have sign up with a free trial for 30 days. And then this section is where you would subscribe if you're interested in continuing with us in your membership. So you have the option to do that either by credit card or through PayPal. And our pricing structure, just so that you know, it's different in every area, but there is a base pricing structure typically around I believe in your area it is £11.95, and per additional tutor would be $3.95. So it's all based on the amount of staff that you have. The base amount is for one person, one access. You get everything that you saw here today. Everyone has the same access to everything. It's just if your business is growing and you need to bring on more tutors, then it's assuming that they need access. And so that's when you're going to pay to upgrade your membership. And that is essentially TutorBird. Thank you so much for joining and taking a look at our demo. I'm going to quickly just take a look. We've got 10 minutes left. There's so many messages. Feel free to unmute as well if you guys have any questions that were not in the chat here. Just going to take a look.
Diana, I'm just going to share my screen again just to show our contact information in case anyone had any questions later on or wanted to take some time to look into it.
Absolutely.
And then get back to us. So let me stop your screen share and.
Oh, yes. Are you stopping it or shall I?
Yeah, it should switch to mine now.
Perfect.
Perfect. Yes. So we do have free support available, whether you are a subscriber, a trial member, or you haven't even looked into us yet and you just have a few questions. So just wanted to share this information with everyone. We do have a support email address. We do have a North American toll-free number, a UK number, and an international number for anyone who wants to reach out to us who is located anywhere else. We do also have hundreds of self-help articles online at support.tutorbird.com. And we have a YouTube channel that is full of video tutorials. Now, these videos are based on the current version or the classic version of TutorBird, as we are currently in beta with this new version that Diana just showed. And we are, again, hoping within the next few months, I think, fingers crossed, going to be able to offer this to just about everyone. But for now, these video tutorials are on the current version. And then Georgina mentioned in the chat, but I also wanted to throw this link up here as well. We do have an extended 60-day trial that we wanted to offer to anyone who is here today or participating in LTF3. Just go to tutorbird.com/LTF3 and it will automatically create a 60-day free trial instead of the typical 30-day free trial.
Yay.
Right.
I took a look in the chat. I don't see much. I just wanted to make one note. Lucy, that you had said that you feel that you're too small to make good use of TutorBird. And I just wanted to say that TutorBird was actually kind of created for people who are really small to start out with, because it was meant to give you a platform and a foundation to start and help you grow. So absolutely, consider whether it's a financial thing that you can invest in, but we absolutely believe that it could work for you as a small tutor, just one person or multiple people. And if you want to know more about how that would work for you, please reach out to our support team. We'd be more than happy to kind of go through that with you or anyone else that thinks that TutorBird might not work for them. I'm sure it will, and we'll be happy to kind of go through that with you.
And we just had a couple more questions pop up in the chat from Miguel. One about how long until you can sign up for the 60-day trial. That link will remain live. So if you're not ready to dive in just yet, don't worry. You can take a little time to explore a little, think about whether you'd really like to try it out. Feel free to sign up for one of our group demos if you wanted to. It'll probably be very similar to what Diana just showed you, but might go into a few more details with some of the other features. It also may even be Diana herself, so you could ask her any follow-up questions there. But whenever you're ready, just visit that link, tutorbird.com/LTF3, and you can sign up. And then Miguel, you also had a question about transitioning from TutorCruncher into TutorBird. Diana, I will let you take that one because I know that with your onboarding stuff, I'm sure you've helped a number of people transition from other softwares out there.
Absolutely, we have not just TutorCruncher, but lots of other people that are coming from different software programs. What I will say is that I showed that student import option. So you have the option to import your student list from other programs. At this time, you can't pull over financial information or anything like that, just for security purposes. But if you need assistance with getting that transition happening, again, reach out to us at support. We will help you do that. The most feedback I hear is that it's very user-friendly and much easier to use. So let us know if you're finding difficulty with that transition, or if you're using a trial account. We'll help you out and give you the best, easiest way to do that. In terms of, no problem, Miguel. In terms of the question in regarding two-way syncing with Google Calendar, it's definitely something that we've heard. Right now, it's really difficult to integrate that simply because of all of the different information that TutorBird requires in order to set up the billing relationship. So if you were to make changes in a third-party calendar, and that is supposed to change onto TutorBird, TutorBird's not going to know, what's the billing relationship, how long is this, all of that, what category do I use? There's lots of information that at this time is just not able to be integrated because of the complexity of the program. But I will say that it does not fall on deaf ears. any type of feature request or development request that we receive from our members, we we write down, and we track demand for that. So if two-way syncing ever is something that we can feasibly and with our technology integrate, we will definitely do that, I'm sure. Any other
Great.
questions? I don't think so. I think we're almost done.
I
eh?
think that's everything. Well, then I just wanted to say thank you again to Ludo, to Julia, to Georgina, to everyone working behind the scenes at Qualified Tutor for organizing Love Tutoring Festival 3. For anyone who's been here all day and is planning on attending so many events throughout the rest of the week, I'm sure you're going to have an incredible time. Oh, John, yes, you are on the beta version. That's right. So we do have someone who is one of our beta testers asking some questions. So I'm glad you were able to get it working. I was talking to you in a ticket this morning. But thank you again for having us here and for a demo. And again, please visit tutorbird.com. If you have any questions, reach out to us. Like I said, you may get Diana on the phone. You may get one of our other incredible, fabulous support staff. They are very, very helpful. They're very knowledgeable, and they are happy to hear any of your feedback, answer any of your questions, or just jump in and help you get set up.
Yeah.
All right.
Thank you
Thanks,
very
everyone.
much. Amy. Thank you, Diana. I would just share as well, based on the question about setting up TutorBird, I don't have patience with figuring out new tech. I tend to do it in little increments, but I set up my entire TutorBird in a day with the demo videos.
Amazing. That's great feedback. Thank you.
Thank you very much, both.
No, of course.
Perfect. So we are now heading into our break. So this is essentially when we figured